ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधेत्तमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। हरिः ॐ श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ॐ। ॐ श्री गणेशाय नमः। ॐ श्री गुरुपरम्पराय नमः। ॐ श्री सरस्वत्यै नमः। ॐ श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। ॐ समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्। Today we will discuss about Jiva. So, Jiva means the concept of individuality. There is a very famous statement or meditation in Ramana Maharshi's ashram that who am I? Maharshi ji tried to indicate about the Jiva or wanted to direct our thinking, thought process. So today's topic is Jiva, the concept of individual being. Or if we start in that way, that I am putting a question unto you, that who are you? Who are you? The day dawned. Birds began singing sweetly. The little girl who would be eager to listen to the singing was in a different mood today. That blessed day had arrived at last, for which she had been waiting so long. The Buddha, on his way to Lumbini, was in the village that morning and would be delivering a sermon soon. She would be seeing the Buddha today. How happy she was. She finished all her household work quickly, but her father was a weaver. He told her, "My child, after your work is over, come to the workplace. I am not well today. You will have to run to the loom today." A little girl, but all the work for her. Yet there was no remorse or sadness. She did everything at home cheerfully. Now she ran. Her father's shop was at the other end of the village. So she would stop, listen to the Buddha, and run to her father. There, under the tree, sat the Buddha. Calmness incarnate, smiling and speaking to the assembled few. The girl stood like a statue, looking at the Buddha. The sermon stopped abruptly. The Buddha was talking to her now. What a surprise! What a joy! Buddha asked, "Who are you, my child?" All eyes turned towards her now. Oh, the weaver's daughter. No mother, good girl, works the whole day. Someone was giving her biodata. But the Buddha did not want that. Again he asked, "Who are you, my child?" The girl nodded in the negative. "I don't know." The assembly was aghast, surprised. She does not know who she is. Arrogant girl. The Buddha smiled. "Where did you come from?" Again the girl nodded in the negative and replied she did not know. The Buddha asked again, "Where are you going?" Again negative reply. No answer, just a nod that she did not know. The Buddha stood up, came to her and blessed her. She fell at the Lord's feet and wept bitter tears. "Cries for mother," said the villagers. But she was happy. She ran now. Her father was dozing on the loom, but it was ruining, or the business, but everything was running. In her joy, she rushed in and cried to her father, "Father, Father, I saw him. I saw him." Before she knew what she did, she had slipped and fallen on the loom. The axle had pierced her heart and she was gone. After the light is uncovered, whether or not the day covering remains is of little consequence. Jiva means the individual soul. After the first question, as to whom made all these stars and planets and trees and rivers, then who is God? The next question that bothered ancient people was, who am I? Were they what they appeared to be? They saw their dear one lying in front of them. Everything was there as it was before. But just because that lying person did not breathe, they called the person dead. What went out? Who went out? Who is the real person then? What was in all the time? The ancient people of India were quick enough to discover that the body is not the real person. It is only an instrument made of clay. They realized that. How madly we ignorant people hold on to this clay thing and play with it. How much we strive to please it. All our valuable lives are spent in pleasing this dirty little body, yet we die. The greatest surprise in the world, said the eldest Pandava, Dharmaraja Yudhishthira, was that even though we see people dying every day, but we think we are to live eternally here. This is the wonder of the wonders. If body is not the real person, then who is it? This eternal puzzle of the individual being has been answered by different schools in different ways. Every school of thought has this concept, yet each school differs from the other in its idea of the jiva, the individuality, the notion of individuality. Swami Vivekananda gives a synoptic view of all the views in his lecture titled Steps of Hindu Philosophic Thought. Now come to various thought process. Dvaita or dualistic sense. Now we will discuss. So far, we see that man is a being who has first a gross body which dissolves very quickly, then a fine body which remains through ions, and then a jiva. This jiva, according to the Vedanta philosophy, is eternal just as God is eternal. I will mention how they refer it with. Panchadashi, 6th chapter, 18th sloka. Chitradeepa Prakarana. There it is there. Jiva Isho Vishuddhaha Chittatha Jiva Shayor Vidaha Avidya Tat Chittayor Yogaha Shadasmakam Anadayaha Jivaha Ishaha Vishuddha Chittaha Jiva and Ishvaya Abheda Avidya and Chit combination. Those six are eternal. So, what is that? Brahman, Maya or Avidya, Brahman and Maya Aikya, Ishvara, Jiva, and Jiva Ishvara Aikya. Those 6 things are considered as eternal in the scripture. The gross body is a compound of akasha or space and prana, the vital air or dynamism or life force, sorry, not dynamism, prana or life force, and therefore will be decomposed. The fine body will also be decomposed after a long time, but the jiva is simple and will never be destroyed. The whole of nature, comprising millions and millions of souls, is under the will of God. God is all-pervading, omniscient, formless, and he is working through nature day and night. The whole of it is under his control. He is the eternal ruler. Dualists say that. Then the question comes, if God is the ruler of this universe, why did he create such a wicked universe? Why must we suffer so much? They say it is not God's fault. It is our fault that we suffer. Whatever we sow, that we reap. जैसे वपन करता हूं ऐसे ही हम लोग काटते हैं फसल, जैसे बोता है ऐसे ही काटता है, ऐसे हिंदी में क्या बोलते पता है. The jiva has been existing for all time, was never created. It has been doing all sorts of things all the time. Whatever we do reacts upon us. So the jiva goes on enjoying and suffering and doing all sorts of things. Now the concept of duality, the concept of death and rebirth for dualists, if we ask that what comes after death, all these Vedanta philosophers admit that this jiva is by its own nature pure, but ignorance covers its real nature. That everyone says, as by evil deeds it has covered itself with ignorance, so by good deeds it becomes conscious of its own nature again. Just as it is eternal, so its nature is pure. The nature of every being is pure. When through good deeds all its sins and misdeeds have been washed away, then jiva becomes pure again. Now, and the question is, when it becomes pure, it goes to what is called Devayana. In Upanishad, we get this terminology, Devayana. Its organ of speech enters the mind. You can't think without words. Wherever there is thought, there must be words. As words enter the mind, so the mind is resolved into the prana or the vital air or life forces, and the prana into the jiva. Then the jiva gets quickly out of the body and goes to the solar regions. In Bhagavatam it is there that various spheres of the universe. This universe has sphere after sphere after sphere after sphere. This earth is the world sphere in which are moons, suns, and stars, everything. Beyond that, there is the solar sphere, and beyond that, another which they call the lunar sphere. Beyond that, there is the sphere which they call the sphere of lightning, the electric sphere. And when the jiva goes there, there comes another jiva, already perfect, to receive it in Ishavasya Bhashya. Bhagavan Shankaracharya ji is writing, Ehi means another jiva, the higher jiva is there to welcome. This new jiva is going there. So the thing is, another jiva who is already perfect is there to receive this new jiva and takes it to another world, the highest heaven called Brahma Loka. Brahma Loka, where Brahmaji stays, where the jiva lives eternally, no more to be born or to die. It enjoys through eternity and gets all sorts of powers except the power of creation. There is only one ruler of the universe, and that is God alone. No one can become God according to dualists. The dualists maintain that if you say you are God, it is a blasphemy. All powers except the creative come to the jiva, and if it likes to have bodies and work in different parts of the world, it can do so. If it orders all the gods to come before it, if it wants its forefathers to come, they all appear at its command. Such are its powers that it never feels any more pain. And if it wants, it can live in the Brahma Loka through all eternity. This is the highest man who has attained the love of God, who has become perfectly unselfish, perfectly purified, who has given up all desires, and who does not want to do anything except worship and love God. There are others that are not so high, who do good works but want some reward against it. They say they will give so much to the poor but want to go to heaven in return. When they die, what becomes of them? The speech enters the mind enters the prana enters the jiva, then the jiva gets out and goes to the lunar sphere, where it has a very good time for a long period. There it enjoys happiness so long as the effect of its good deeds endures. When the same is exhausted, it descends again and once again enters life on earth according to its desires. In the lunar sphere, the jiva becomes what we call a god, or what the Christians or Mohammedans called an angel or angel. These gods are the names of certain positions. For instance, Indra, the king of the gods, is the name of a position. Thousands of men or women get to that position. So the jivas go to heaven and have a very good time, except now and then when the demons give them a chase. In our mythology, it is said there are demons who sometimes trouble the gods. In all mythologies, you read how these demons and the gods fought. And the demons sometimes conquered the gods, although many times it seems the demons did not do so many wicked things as the gods. In all mythologies, for instance, you find the devas or the gods fond of women. So after their reward is finished, they fall down again. According to Chandogya Upanishad, the jiva come through the clouds, through the rains, and thus get into some grain or plant and find their way into human body. When the grain or plant is eaten by the men or women, it creates or it enters into the sperm and ovum. Then it joins. Some Upanishad says that it becomes only sperm. And then again the new jiva is born. In the deva form or god form, they make no karma at all. That is the benefit. Only man or women makes karma in this very world. Karma means work which will produce effect. When a woman or a man dies and becomes a god or goddess, he or she has only a period of pleasure, and during that time makes no fresh karma. It is simply a reward for his past good karma or action. When the good karma is worked out, then the remaining karma begins to take effect and he comes down to earth. He becomes a man or woman again, and if he does very good works and purifies himself, he goes to Brahmaloka and comes back no more. Now the question of what about the animals? The animal is a state of sojourn for the jiva evolving from lower forms. In course of time, the animal becomes man. It is a significant fact that as the human population is increasing and the animal population is decreasing, so it concludes that animal kingdom is evolving into human kingdom. Now we will discuss about Vishishta Advaita Matam or qualified non-dual philosophy. So what the qualified non-dualists say? So it is the next step of dualists. We can say that higher Vedantic philosophy, which says that this cannot be. God is both the material and the efficient cause of this universe. If you say there is a God who is an infinite being and a soul which is also infinite and a nature which is also infinite, you can go on multiplying infinites without limit, which is simply absurd. Because infinite means there is no second. 2 infinite, 3 infinites cannot be. It's an absurd thing. Absurd thing. So the thing is, you actually in this way smash all logic. So God is both the material and the efficient cause of the universe. That is the qualified non-dualists' sayings. They further say that God projects this universe out of himself or herself. How can he or she create degenerate things? So their answer is, just as I am a soul and have a body, and in a sense this body is not different from me, yet I, the real I, in fact am not the body. For instance, I say I am a child, I am a young man, or I am an old man, but my soul has not changed. It remains the same soul. Similarly, the whole universe comprising all nature and an infinite number of souls is, as it were, the infinite body of God. He is interpenetrating the whole of it. Tat srishtva tat anupravishat, Taittiriya Upanishad says. He alone is unchangeable, but nature changes and soul changes. He is unaffected by changes in nature and soul. In what way does nature change? In its forms, it takes fresh forms, but the soul cannot change that way. The soul contract and expands in knowledge. This is the second theory. The first is called dualism. This represents a higher stage of religious development and goes by the name of qualified monoism. In dualism or Dvaitavada, the universe is conceived as a large machine set going by God, while in qualified monoism or Vishuddha Advaita or Vishishta Advaita, it is conceived as an organism interpenetrated by the divine self. Now, Advaitins or non-dualist saints. The last are the non-dualists. Advaitins raise the question also that God must be both the material and the efficient cause, means upadana karana and nimitta karana, material and the efficient cause of this universe. The material cause is the cause become effect. The effect is nothing but the cause in another form. Wherever you see an effect, it is the cause reproduced. If the universe is the effect and God the cause, it must be the reproduction of God. If you say that the universe is the body, then the question comes, universe is the body of God, and that the body becomes contracted and fine and becomes the cause, and out of that the universe is evolved. The non-dualists or Advaitins say that it is God himself who has become this universe. Now comes a very fine question. If this God has become this universe, you and all these things are God. Certainly, this book is God, everything is God. My body is God, and my mind is God, and my soul is God. Then why are there so many jivas? Has God become divided into millions of jivas? Does that one God turn into millions of jivas? Then how did it become so? How can that infinite power and substance, the one being of the universe, become divided? It is impossible to divide infinity. How can that pure being become this universe? If we quote Bhagavad Gita, na sato vidyate bhavaha, na bhava vidyate sata. If he has become the universe, he is changeful. And if he is changeful, he is part of nature. And whatever is nature and changeful is born and dies. That we have seen in the first of our classes. You please go through. That what about is the part of the nature has sixfold modification. Jayate asti, vardhate, viparinamate, apakshiyate, mriyate. If our God is changeful, he must die someday. Take note of that. If, see, non-dualists are very, very serious about this. Huh? Again, I am telling. If our God is changeful, he must die someday. Again, how much of God has become this universe? If you say X number, means the unknown algebraical quantity, then God is God minus X. And therefore, not the same God as before this creation, because so much has become this universe. So in conclusion, non-dualists say this universe does not exist at all. It is all illusion. The whole of this universe, these gods and goddesses, devas, angels, and all the other beings born and dying, all this infinite number of souls coming up and going down are all dreams. Swapnavat. There is no jiva at all. How can there be many? It is the one infinity. As the one sun reflected on the various pieces of water appears to be many, and millions of globules of water reflect so many millions of suns, and in each globule will be a perfect image of the sun, yet there is only one sun. So all these jivas but reflections in different minds. These different minds are like so many different globules reflecting this one being. God is being reflected in all these different jivas, but a dream cannot be without a reality. And that reality is that one infinite existence. You as body, mind or soul are a dream, but what you are really is existence, consciousness and bliss alone. Sat Chit Anand. You are the God of this universe. This is the Vedantin say. You are the creating. You are creating the whole universe and drawing in it. Thus says the Advaitist. So we get a clear picture of the basic concepts of the Jiva in the world. The last theory it is mentioned is the Advaita theory, but Pratibimbavada or reflection theory. This is what is discussed here in Tattva Bodha. Now the next sloka I will make some parts. So today the Jiva discussion, I want to finish it up. स्थूल शरीर अभिमानी जीवनामकं ब्रह्म प्रतिबिंबं भवति स्थूल शरीर अभिमानी जीवनामकं ब्रह्म प्रतिबिंबं भवति स एव जीवः प्रकृत्या स्वस्माद् ईश्वरं भिन्नत्वेन जानाति प्रकृत्या स्वस्माद् ईश्वरं भिन्नत्वेन जानाति अविद्या उपाधिः सन् आत्मा जीव उच्यते अविद्या उपाधिः सन् आत्मा जीव उच्यते. Now word for word meaning. Sthula Sharira Abhimani, one who identifies with the gross body, Jiva Namakam, called the Jiva, Brahma Pratibimbam, a reflection of Brahman or the truth, Bhavati is Saha, that Eva alone, Jivaha, individual, Prakritya, by nature, Swasmat, from himself, Ishwaram, the Lord, Bhinnatvena, as different, Janati, considers, Avidya Upadhi San, conditioned by ignorance, Atma, the self, Jivaha, or the individual, Iti, thus Uchyate, is called. So, what does it mean? The reflection of truth or Brahman, which identifies with the gross body, is called the individual Jiva. This individual by nature considers the Lord or Ishvara to be essentially different from himself or herself. The self, Atma, conditioned by ignorance or avidya, is called the individual. The truth or Brahman is infinite. It wields in its inherent creative power the total conditioning, Maya, and appears as the world of things and beings. I'm sorry. The same infinite truth, when wielding the individual conditioning or avidya, is called the individual jiva. Avidya or ignorance being predominantly tamasika or inert and of the nature of ignorance, binds the individual. He or she identifies with the finite, gross and subtle bodies and lives as a finite creature, helpless, hopeless, sorrowful, doubtful, anxious, confused, forgetting, his or her infinite nature. He or she is enslaved by his or her conditionings and therefore called Maya Das. Maya Das, the slave of Maya, the slave of illusion, ignorance. The sun reflects in a bucket of water and assumes a small identity as a reflection in the water. The reflection is conditioned by the bucket and the state of the water. If the reflection forgets its true nature of infinite light, it feels bound by the bucket of water. If it realizes that it is light alone, then it plays around in the water unaffected. Similarly, truth reflected in the bucket of the gross body and the waters of the subtle body is called the individual or jiva. Now, schools of Advaita on the jiva. There are three schools of Advaita Vedanta. We have discussed them in an earlier talk. We have seen that two schools, Bhamati and the Vartika, say that jiva is the image or reflection or pratibimba of Brahman or the truth or the supreme reality. The third school or the Vivarana school says that jiva is the image or reflection of Ishvara and not Brahman. This is called Abhashavad or the theory of falsity. Abhashavad or the theory of falsity. What does it mean? In the first school, it says, if I know that I am the reflection of Brahman and when ignorance goes, I am Brahman itself. Brahmavid Brahmaiva Bhavati. According to the Vivarana school, both the image or reflection and the original have to be transcended to know Brahman. The jiva should know it is an image of Ishvara or Lord, then reject Ishvara also, and then reach Brahman. But here in Tattva Bodha, Bhagavan Shankaracharya ji has considered the Pratibimba theory alone over here. The theory of reflection. So now the question comes, locus of jiva. Where is the jiva located? It is not the physical body, but it identifies itself with the physical body and say, I am strong, I am tall, I am handsome, and so on. So it is not the physical body. Now the question comes, is it the mind? It cannot be the mind because mind falls under the category of subtle body. And we have seen that mind, which is indecisive, cannot be the reflection of Brahman. The intellect also cannot be the jiva, because that also is subtle body alone. The subtle body is created by using the five fundamental elements: Akash, Vayu, Agni, Jal and Prithvi. And they will come to an end one day. The reflection of Brahman is not created and shall never end. So it should be different. The causal body is the jiva. The karana sharira is the jiva. Ignorance has enveloped the soul, which is the reflection of Brahman. When the body dies, the jiva travels from this body to another, carrying with it the subtle body also. Our aim is to know that this jivahood is nothing but a mere reflection. Vishwam darpana drishyamana nagari tulyam nijantargatam pashyan atmani mayaya bahirabodbhutam yatha nidraya. Okay, I will not come in that point. Okay, so what we are proudly holding on to and struggling all our millions of lives is but a shadow. This knowledge is enough to take us to supreme knowledge, the truth, says Vedanta. Now, if we recapitulate our studies, that a seeker of truth, purified by several spiritual practices, processing the 6 treasures needed for a mumukshu or seeker of liberation, means Shamadhi, Shatka Sampatti, Vishishta Mumukshu, goes to an illumined teacher or Acharya. The teacher teaches him, or the guru teaches him, by the method of superimposition or adhyaropa and desuperimposition, apavada. Thus, the disciple learns how his body, mind, and the causal self have been created. He also learns how the cosmos has come into being, and that while the visible cosmos is gross, it has a subtle and causal counterpart too. The seeker then learns that he should strive to know the truth. The truth is hidden by untruth or falsity, called avidya or ignorance. This ignorance has enveloped the self, and so the idea of individuality has come. In order to give up this false individuality and attain the true individuality, which is Brahman, the aspirant is to know what truth is. Is this truth God? The next chapter or the next portion of the sloka will discuss this. Hari Om Tat Sat. Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. I hope you all have understood Ilama's questions. I think has been answered. I can't hear you, Amma. Please unmute now. Yes.
ऐसे तो everything was very clear, but actually जो होता है ना कि विशिष्ट अद्वैत एंड अद्वैत उसका एकदम सिंपल में I wanted to know, and actually this we have heard always in Hindi, so some of the English words में थोड़ा confusion होता है. So
Dvaita, I'm telling, Dvaita means God is the creator, He is a separate entity, and we are the creation.
Yeah.
Vishishta Advaita says that God is separate entity and God is whole universe also.
Like you said, Ishwar. Yes, you explained that way. That's that two. This the Bhavati and the two things you explained.
Yes.
The two beliefs are there, and we are believing only one, that Shankaracharya.
Shankaracharya, we reject, we negate the whole creation.
Yeah. आभास हो गया ना, मतलब है ही नहीं तो क्या हुआ फिर? There is nothing like that. So तो क्या है कि it is little, but everything was clear. I understood whatever you said, but what actually मेरे को ना चाहिए था कि this is this, but I could understand. It's clear. Thank you.
You wanted one line.
Yeah. Yes, I wanted one line.
I told the whole Bible.
Yeah, तो बाइबल बोलोगे तो फिर इंग्लिश में बाइबल बोलोगे तो फिर हमारी मुश्किल हो जाती है.
हिंदी ज्यादा नहीं.
No, I don't understand, because you see certain English words, no, to get into, we have to think, हाँ इसका बदले में ये है, because we have heard always in these scriptures all in Hindi, all the Swamijis, and you are in English, so we have to practice to understand your English like that.
I will start very soon in Bengali.
No. तब तो
भूल ही जाएंगे.
समझ नहीं आएगा कुछ भी.
Swamiji, I just wanted to clear one point.
Yes.
Like the one, like after all these explanations, can we say that in the BMI chart, the Om is the truth and the Vasana is the reflection?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Hari Om. Anyone else? Any questions? Is my English very tough?
No.
I don't mean to say
like
tough.
a child, you know.
I don't mean to say tough. Or it's very simple, but certain words जो होता है ना एकदम theoretically, तो theoretically words का तो जो है ना जनरल इंग्लिश तो ठीक है, we understand, but एक word बोलेंगे उसका word हिंदी में, that theoretically.
I am very poor in English too, so
नहीं, your English is very good.
I speak like an infant child.
No, it is fine, and I understand everything, but in certain things जो एकदम particular word होता है ना जिसका विशिष्ट
terminology you are talking about. Yes. Like
तो क्या वो mind में, so when you speak in English, so when you speak in English, मेरा mind में ये हुआ कि वो हुआ, confused. That's
okay. From next class I will try to translate it.
Swamiji.
Yes.
Ignorance is in the causal body.
Yes.
The ignorance about self.
Yes.
So ignorance should be removed only by knowledge.
Yes.
So that self-knowledge should go into the causal body, isn't it? Where the location of the ignorance, knowledge should come into that location so that the ignorance is removed.
Yes. Yes.
So how that knowledge can enter into the causal body, if you please explain. If it is not possible today, tomorrow you can discuss.
Yes. You please write me personally in WhatsApp.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Okay.
So it will be in my mind.